Welcome back, everybody, to Constructive Uncoupling. It's the podcast that teaches you how to have an amicable divorce, or at least use divorce as a new beginning. I'm Judy Weigel, your host. I'm your amicable divorce expert. Why? Because that's all I do, amicable divorces. My company is Divorce Resource Incorporated in Los Angeles. So today starts a series of episodes where I'm going to read to you from a book by a judge. It's the best divorce book I have read yet. It's called The Good Karma Divorce. The judge's name is Michelle Lawrence. And the reason why I think this is an amazing book and something I really wanted to share with everybody is because judges aren't known to be touchy-feely, introspective, wanting everything to be fabulous for everybody. Judges are dispassionate and a little judgmental because they're judges, of course. Doesn't mean they're bad or wrong, it just means that's their job. They must render decisions about you. But your divorce is the biggest thing, one of the biggest things that's probably ever happened in your life. And when I write confirmation letters to people, if I'm booking a mediation for them, or if I'm booking a filing appointment for them, the very last sentence in every confirmation email is, divorce is a new beginning. Because it is. Every time we have a giant life change, it's there to change our lives. And it's up to us how we use that change. We could either use that change to our benefit, or we can allow that change to destroy our lives. It's all up to us. So I'm going to read excerpts from the first chapter of Michelle Lawrence's book, The Good Karma Divorce, because she, in broad strokes, touches on how you use divorce as a new beginning and some steps you can take that from the get-go will help you exponentially. So here it goes. The advent of a life crisis, breakup and divorce being among the most difficult, forces a person to choose a path. One direction can be destructive and therefore weakening, while another can build strength, wisdom, and awareness. At first, it seems easier to behave any way you feel like. After all, you're hurt. You deserve it, right? Choosing a path with opportunities to build courage, compassion, and strength appears to require a fortitude you don't feel you can marshal. You might be thinking self-assessment is something you can do later, after this is all over. And by the way, this is me talking now. Who knows when it's over? Nobody knows when their divorce is going to end. I have people coming here for an amicable divorce. They think it's going to be done in a few months, and 2 years later, we're still wrapping it up. If you're litigating, which I don't get involved in, it could be 14 years. So, yes, you never know when it's going to be over, but you do know how to manage yourself in the meantime. So let me go on. The reality is the dark emotions of resentment, anger, hostility, and alienation can be yours for the rest of your life if you choose. In this darkness, it's difficult to see the life-enhancing lessons being offered. You might say, I want a peaceful divorce, but I don't feel it. When it comes to divorce or separation and the ensuing implosion of the family unit, there are many easy-to-take paths that tend to be random, sloppy, and disordered. There are countless opportunities to create a cyclone out of a rain shower. There are no quick fixes, no pain-free fixes when it comes to divorce, but there are simple paths to take that are life-enhancing and others that are life-destroying. Sometimes circumstances provide a gentle nudge to find a higher path. In the absence of quick fixes, this is Michelle talking, I started working on settlement techniques for reducing this pain and turmoil for the litigants in my courtroom. Interestingly, my investigation began as an attempt to flush out and then address all of the fears that blocked settlement in complicated child custody cases. I asked the litigants to write down their worst fears concerning how their divorce would impact their relationship with their children, their concerns about the other party's parenting, and their ideal goals for divorce. By the way, this is me talking. People hate writing things down, but I'm telling you from experience, if you can get into the habit of writing things down and your worst fears, things change because you have that mirror of self-reflection coming back at you when you write things down, and it kind of pulls the negative energy out of you when you can take the internal emotions and put them on paper. Okay, now I'm back to the book. I began to notice that the sheer act of writing everything down created a major shift in the litigant's emotional responsiveness and malleability in settling cases. I found that when fears were articulated, they could be addressed. Often a previously unrevealed fear lurking beneath the surface caused the emotional blockage that was obstructing the settlement. Just the act of cataloging fears and needs was so calming that people could move from an emotional to a problem-solving phase. In one instance, a case could not be settled because the wife was furious over her husband's affair with his office manager. Through writing, it became apparent that her real fear was that he would be obsessed with his new love and wouldn't see or support his children. Now, isn't that interesting? That comes up constantly in divorces. One fear masks another fear. One point of anger masks a fear that isn't even being expressed that could really bring things to conclusion. She also feared being disposed of and disregarded, which activated her underlying fear of abandonment. So let me just say this again. Through writing, it became apparent that the wife's real fear was that her husband would be obsessed with his new love, the office manager, and wouldn't see or support his children. She also feared being disposed of herself and disregarded as the ex-wife and as the continuing mother of the children, which activated her underlying fear of abandonment. Big fear in divorce, abandonment. We were able to write an agreement in which her husband agreed to almost every detail of communication that she required. He agreed to check in with her twice a week and not to bring his new girlfriend on custodial visits. Now, again, isn't that amazing that when we can authentically communicate what's really going on underneath us or underneath the issues, that can really move everything forward in the decision-making phase and really address the real fears. I go on. As cognitive neuropsychologist, Dr. Leonard Miller tells us, the process of writing activates the part of the brain that does the problem solving and analyzing, thereby deactivating the part of the brain where negative emotions like fear and anxiety are created. One study conducted at the University of Texas found that writing about emotions improved physical health and immune function as well. So again, I diverge. Stress, and anxiety, which is created by fear, if we don't get it out, it actually affects us physically. You have panic attacks, you look horrifying, you eat badly, your sleep patterns are disruptive, and it makes not only a horrible experience emotionally and financially, but then physically. I go on. Other studies performed at UCLA showed that just like hitting the brakes when you see a yellow light, You also hit the brakes on your emotional responses, and you put your feelings into words. When you dump your emotions, concerns, and goals on the page, you free up much of the emotional energy you use to manage your feelings. Too often, this emotional content feels like something you chew and chew. You go over and over, but you can never quite seem to swallow. It's there. You tell your story over and over and over because you're processing these emotions and they don't go anywhere. They sit inside of you and they just get regurgitated like a little emotional hamster on a wheel. With these circular thoughts on paper, you are free to focus on goal setting and aspirational thinking. Writing will create what you will find is your most formidable ally in the divorce process, which I refer to as your personal manifesto. This is me. Other mediators use this term as well, personal manifesto. And because this is such a big life change, I think we need a manifesto. This document will be the tool you use to impose order on the disordered and chaotic experience and emotions that lie ahead. You may think that goals and life purposes don't feel relevant to the pain you're in now, but not to take command of your life plan is to allow the result to be guided by chance, which is no guide at all. Physicians who study the nature of disorder believe it's largely predictable. They contend that the one thing you can always be certain of in the universe is an increase in disorder. Our technologically advanced society creates the illusion that we can control our lives. Oh, and isn't that a big illusion? However, disorder is part of the natural order, and never do we feel more disordered than when our relationships and family seem to be falling apart. Here is your trifecta: the laws of natural disorder, the disorder of your own emotions, and the disorder of the emotions of everyone who matters to you. This is what's going on in your life right now in divorce. The mathematical odds of behaving in a way that promotes order and harmony may seem stacked against you. Physicians, sociologists, theologians, psychologists, and philosophers will agree that divorce is one of life's greatest stressors, second only to the death of a mate or a child. When it happens, you're presented with an array of opportunities on an hourly basis, sometimes minute by minute, to decide what path in life you're going to take and which muscle you're going to exercise to get there. Emotional muscle, that is. Will it be the muscle of revenge and vendetta? Or is it the potent muscle of compassion and personal evolvement? Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, "The most spiritual men, as the strongest, find their happiness where others would find their destruction. Their joy is self-conquest." Do you want to learn the lessons your divorce has to teach you? Oh, here we go. Divorce is a new beginning. Do you want to learn the lessons your divorce has to teach you? They are all there for the taking. Even if you believe that meeting your mate was a result of random occurrence, the relationship that resulted has great meaning because of the lessons it yields for you. Your lessons come through the choices you make, and your choices create your character. Elevating your wisdom, applying it, and sharing it with the people around you give meaning to your existence. This was such a remarkable thing that I just read to you. And I want to say it again, your lessons come through the choices you make, and your choices create your character. So even if you felt that you made the absolute wrong choice from the get-go, you made it for a reason. And you have to look at everything in life as a learning lesson. If you don't, you will be seriously disappointed with life and you'll never learn anything. And you'll always be sad and distraught. So don't beat yourself up. Just accept that you made this choice for a reason. And this is where, in my own personal philosophy, Judy Weigel, that I say the only way I can really deal with life and accept that it is fair on any level is to accept and acknowledge that everything that happens to us is to help us grow and learn. Then it becomes fair because we are being all given opportunities to learn and grow. And that way you don't keep beating yourself up for making choices that are big and have big relevance with change attached to it. And without pain, you don't grow. And that's just the way it is. Without pain, you don't grow. But you can mitigate and minimize the pain by using each learning lesson, using each life occurrence, as painful as it may be, as a learning lesson. Okay, now I go back to the book. The process of developing your manifesto, Michelle Lawrence, the judge, creates your first shift in attitude. You will not only be sculpting your aspirational self, you'll also be emphasizing positive emotions and qualities you can use to counter negative thought streams. Ultimately, you'll be able to assign meaning to the pain in your life, and you can start to envision the possibility that pain is not always destructive, but can be transformational. Oh my God, I should have been a judge. When you see, of course I am judgmental, sometimes. When you see pain in a new light, it changes your relationship to adversity. In time, the manifesto will become your personal doctrine containing your own investigated truth so that when you refer to it, it will give you moments of inspiration and transcendence. I read that wrong. Ultimately, you'll be able to assign meaning to the pain in your life, and you can start to envision the possibility that pain is not always destructive, but can be transformative. That's the word I got wrong. Pain will always be transformative if you allow it to be. However, Michelle says, when the loss is as a result of divorce, we often behave very differently. No matter the rich and velveted moments we may have shared, most of us give in to an irresistible temptation to focus only on the negatives. You'll often hear me talk about the dangers of writing off an entire relationship just because it ends in divorce. This is so excellent. While a former mate may well be replaceable, the moments shared are not. The totality of moments shared with that person carry parts of us that cannot be replaced ever. Whether we like it or not, that former mate is in our bloodstream and always will be. In his or her face, we see a mirror of our past. We actually sabotage our own healing when we reduce former partners to mere sound bites, as in, my ex-wife is a total bitch, or my first husband was a chronic liar. So that's what we do. In order to minimize our pain, we have to minimize and reduce the relevance and importance that the choice of putting this partner in our lives made. And there is a relevance. There's a learning lesson. That's the relevance. So let's not diminish the partner we're about to leave, especially if it's a partner who's a parent of our child. That partner is never going to leave. That partner will always be the co-parent. But let's give meaning to the person that used to be our mate and now will not be our mate. There's still relevance there. So as you think through the following transformational questions, because here's a few questions she's going to pose to you now. And this is how we're going to conclude this particular episode. So as you think through the following transformational questions, write out your answers and make notes on how you feel as you're writing, including any insights that emerge, and insights will emerge. So question number 1. Recall 5 things about your mate that you once treasured. Write these things down in as much emotional detail as possible, as you will use this information to balance yourself emotionally during periods of conflict and adversity. Number 2, write down at least 5 offenses your mate has inflicted upon you. Did you retaliate? Did you play any role in or have any responsibility for those encounters, no matter how small? Number 3, list at least 5 offenses inflicted upon you by your mate that you have not mirrored to either your spouse or others. And Michelle says parenthetically, bet you can't. Number 4, picture and describe the kind of person you want to be now, how you want to remember yourself 5 years from now when you look back at what you were like during your divorce or breakup. Do you want to remember yourself as a whiner, swimming in self-pity, vengeful and petty, or as someone who attempted to withstand this difficult transition along with its challenges with dignity? So I just want to break for a second. One of my former clients who represented emerging artists who were photographers, as a thank you after the filing, gave me a series of photos. I framed them all and put them around my office. And there's one photo that sits at the front desk reception area. It's Frank Sinatra coming out of one of his attorney's offices, and it says over the doorway of the office, "Divorce your loved one with dignity." I've always remembered that. Divorce your loved one with dignity. And when I was getting divorced, it was amicable, but it was so unbelievably sad that whole year. But never once did I want to tear down my soon-to-be ex-spouse. It didn't matter what happened to create the divorce. What mattered was that I had to use this to heal something in me that needed addressing and healing, and I needed to use it to transform. And it really did work. Number 5, I go back to the list. If you can stand it, have someone take a picture of you when you're feeling really angry. Then take a good look at yourself in that photo. You're certainly entitled to look and feel that way, but ask yourself how many times you want to relive that moment, how long you want that image to last. In what ways do you aspire to shift from how you appear in that image, and are you willing to do some work to make that shift? Number 6, make a list of 5 heroes, real or fictitious. And next to each name, write 3 things you like about each hero. What things do you have in common with them? Now, isn't that interesting? Because we really don't give ourselves enough credit for great things that we do in life. Well, of course, if we're a narcissist, we do. But if we're the regular person, we just live our lives. And we don't really acknowledge the good things we do. It takes other people to call our attention to that, and then we're really surprised. Really? That's us? Really? You think that's what I do? If we can acknowledge the good things that we do, we are really encouraging our confidence. And when we have confidence, we know that when serious issues come into our lives, we have the ability to control our emotions and direct our lives otherwise. And so I think this is really good. to look at what things you may have in common with people you admire, your heroes. Number 7. If you're a parent, okay, this is really important. If you're a parent, list all the positive qualities you think a good parent should have. Next to each, put a plus sign if you think you have that quality, and a minus sign if you think you don't. Look at the qualities with minuses, and next to them, write down why you think you don't possess those qualities. Are they essential qualities that apply to you and your children? If so, are these issues you can work on? Write down how you would like your children to describe you now. Oh my gosh. Write down how you would like your children to describe you now. How would you like them to describe you 5 years from now? When they are independent adults, how do you want them to look back on the divorce? This is amazing stuff. Number 8, describe the ideal way you would like to handle your disappointment and resentment. This is your manifesto going forward. And number 9, what are the 3 greatest benefits you've reaped from your relationship? Now, bear in mind, you're going through a divorce, right? Or a breakup. But write down the 3 greatest benefits you've reaped from the relationship. How has your relationship shaped you and contributed positively to the person you are today? There are other questions, but I want to stop there. You can read everything for yourself in The Good Karma Divorce by Judge Michelle Lawrence, and you can get it on Amazon. So this was the first chapter. This is one of the best books I've ever read. And I'm going to continue to read from them. But for right now, I've given you a lot to think about. When we resume, you'll be able to, well, in the meantime, before we resume, why don't you email me if you want to have a little dialogue about this? Because I do this a lot with my clients, just as an extra little value added. You can reach me at Judy, Judy, at divorceresourceinc.com. Judy at divorceresourceinc.com. And just open a little dialogue with me. I will answer you, and maybe I can address some of the concerns and issues you bring up in your email on future podcasts. So thank you so very much for joining me, and I hope this has contributed positively to your advance in an amicable divorce.